All right, we're live. Well, welcome back to another episode of Persuasion by the Pint. I'm Jonathan Taylor, along with
Sean McCool and Jonathan. Today we have a guest on with us today, sitting in the green room, waiting for us to get our act together and get things rolling. I was late, so appreciate the patience.
No worries, man.
But then we're actually early from when we usually do it. So
we are. Yep.
So
so that's on me, and I didn't let you know until the last minute, but you were doing business and making that happen. So
putting into practice a lot of what we talk about on this show.
Absolutely.
So it's good. Yeah, this is a good topic. Will AI replace me?
Yes.
Yeah. Will it take my job?
So we've got the author coming on here shortly. He is the author of the book, Will AI Take My Job?
That's the question.
We've talked a lot about this, Sean, lately on the show, haven't we? And
and I've had a few nightmares around this. So.
I think you lean further one way, and I'm probably somewhere in the middle.
I go through phases. Sure. I kind of go through phases. Like I'm like, if I see something kind of cool and new about AI, I'm like, holy crap! Like I can see where it could go.
Right.
And then I come back to earth, and I'm like, no, it's a tool. It's fine. But I'm curious to see what Matt has to say.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us about Matt so we can bring him on in?
So our guest today, again, is the author. He's Matthew Rouse. He's the author of Will AI Take My Job? Matt is a sci-fi fantasy reader, lifelong computer nerd, self-made entrepreneur, has been learning the tricks of online marketing for more than 2 decades, and is the host of the podcast called Digital Marketing Masters Podcast, which I'll be subscribing to, and also the Business Builders Throwdown and the Social Media Throwdown. He's an expert in digital marketing and advertising. He spends his working hours helping other businesses grow. So, and of course, he's got a family when he's not spending all of his time working. He has a daughter, and he loves writing at the coffee shop. Sounds like a lot of fun. Sounds like your kind of person there, Sean. So with that said, let's welcome Matt to the show.
Yeah. How you guys doing?
Good. How about yourself?
Can't complain. It's another snowy day in Canada.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. We don't like those days.
We're
I was telling Matt before, I said, we're Southerners by nature. So if we see 2 inches of snow or an inch of snow, that's enough for us.
Yeah.
Right.
I like to see it once a year. Be gone in 48 hours max. Sure. And
yeah, it usually doesn't stay as long as it has. We kind of had a little cold, spree the last few weeks, but for the most part, it's usually pretty mild here because we're very south.
Hopefully, the topic will we're going to thaw things out. With our topic of conversation today.
Yeah, very good.
That was a cheesy little pun, wasn't it?
So, Matt, kind of a teaser. We're going to do our beverages here. Oh, we're still here. Can you hear us?
I can.
We're still here. He had troubles. Oh, his mic was.
Is my mic cutting out?
No, you're fine.
Oh.
Test.
I hear you.
I can't hear you.
Yeah, we're here.
All of a sudden, my
his headphones are out.
Let me check. Let me do it.
Oh no.
Let me text him. I'll tell him we can hear him. Love tech. It's the AI. They must think we're going to talk bad about them or something.
Test. All right. Let me log out and log back in real quick. Something's going on here.
Sure.
I don't know why I can't hear.
All right, Matt. Guess it's just you and me.
That's right.
You're probably thinking this is a real classy organization here.
Don't worry. I used StreamYard also before, and I understand.
Sounds like his mic is cutting out a little bit, so I wonder if it's his headphone jack.
Yeah, it could be. There's always something going on the internet too. So
yeah,
I don't know how many streams I've had interrupted in my life.
Yeah, we've had some crazy stuff happen where we couldn't get people on, and we had to patch them in with a cell phone, all kinds of stuff. So
right. Actually, I use StreamYard to record now, and then I don't stream it. I just use it for recording at this point.
Yeah.
I really like StreamYard though. I really like the result we get from it.
Yeah, we've been using it for 6 years now. So
yeah, I used to use Squadcast, but I don't know. I had some problems with it when I got kind of merged with Descript, and because I had an account with each company and they couldn't figure out how to like put my accounts together, and I lost some of my recording, and I was like, that's it. I'm done with that. I'm out.
Yeah, I'm surprised StreamYard hasn't put more AI into their stuff as far as the transcripts and other stuff.
Yeah.
Post show.
Live transcription would be cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Surprised they haven't done that yet.
I'm sure it's coming. Or like a live feed that has, translates on the fly.
Nope, now we can't hear him.
No.
Can't hear you.
There we go.
There we go.
There we go.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, somehow StreamYard had your mix.
Are you hardwired in? Because you're jumping a little bit.
Yeah, I am.
Okay. Maybe it'll catch up.
Connection. Let's switch to Wi-Fi. See if that helps. Testing.
There we hear you.
Okay.
All right. I think
there we go.
Yeah. I
okay.
think it's better now.
All right. Sorry about that, Matt.
No problem.
Yeah. All right. So where were we? We were just saying,
all right,
welcome.
I
know what I was saying. I was going to ask you before we get into our beverages, which will be quick, but if you could kind of tease one thing that people might learn on this show that might be new that you're going to reveal, or, whatever, like what would that be? Or one thing you want to think about?
I would say you want to make sure you listen to the end of the show, because we're going to talk about something that is the blind spot that I've found with almost 100% of people I've talked to about AI.
Oh, okay.
That's a nice teaser.
Man, you've been in this business.
It's almost like I do marketing for a living.
I know. It's like you know how to drop a teaser. I love it. All right. Let's do our beverages real quick. Jonathan, in case you disappear on us again, we'll let you go first.
All right. I'm going to have to show this. Let's see. Share this tab. So this is a Floodlight Hell style lager from... Who's this? Oh, Threes Brewing. I think I've had one on here from Threes Brewing before.
I don't recognize this one. That looks.
Yeah, it's very unique. In fact, I could not read the font. It's kind of an interesting font on the title. So I thought it was
Good Light.
I was actually
Floodlight.
I was Googling Good Light, but it's Floodlight. See,
Floodlight, yeah,
Floodlight. But I was Googling Good Light and I couldn't find anything. And finally I realized that was an FL instead of a G. Yeah. But it says made for memories, shared for progress. There are few brewers as open and authentic and willing to share on an emotional level as Zekoa Beer Company. And those are the same reasons why their lager house on the river resonates with so many. Let's see. This is a pale lager, 5.6%, I think.
2%.
No, 5.2%. There we go.
Better pull them readers out.
Yeah, I need the reading glasses. It is it says, enjoy the simple pleasures of fresh baked rustic loaves, toasted biscuit drizzled in wildflower honey, and a sprinkle of fresh herbs. I don't know if I want to drink this or not.
Sounds very British.
Yeah. I don't know that I care for this, but we'll see.
We'll see. All right. And they talk about bad marketing, small reverse font.
Yeah.
Reverse light font. That's
can't read it, can't find it.
Yeah. Man, that's tough. All right, Matt, what do you have? I think you're not having alcohol, but you're having...
I know I'm doing the afternoon coffee right now because I got to drive my kid over to Grandpa and Grandma's house.
Okay.
But
you got to go
later on, though, we're gonna have... Honestly, we have a really good cider brew house
imbibing
where I live. That's right. Called Annapolis Brewing Company.
Okay.
And they make a number of craft beers as well, but my favorite actually is their cider. They have a cider called Low Tide, which is kind of a dry apple cider with Nova Scotia apples. It's made right in town with a town that's only got 500 people in it. And it's great, honestly.
Very cool. Speaking of cider, it's a great segue. I'm actually I had this on the show before, but it's Black Phillip hard cider. It's blood orange and cranberry. So the first time I got this, Matt, Black Phillip, I immediately thought of like a, what's his name? What name? The movie maker, Peel. Like,
yeah,
it was like, sounds like a name for one of his movies, right?
Right. It looks like Krampus on the front.
Yeah, yeah. So I went into chat and I was like, make me a movie story, a quick movie, synopsis for this cider called Black Phillip in the style of Jordan Peele. And it was pretty funny. It was hilarious. So I sent it to the guys at the brewery. I went on their page, filled in the contact form, sent it to them. They thought it was so funny. They laughed and they sent me a whole case of this stuff and,
nice.
And then a beanie that has their logo on it too. So I've got a fridge full of this stuff.
That's right.
Nice.
So yeah.
We're gonna have to write a bot that does that. Just keep sending everybody a movie about their beer.
Yeah. Get some free beer out there. So
that's right. You have trucks showing up at your house 6 hours a day.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, let's cheers it up and to a good podcast.
Yes. Cheers.
All right, Jonathan, give us a quick rating on 1 to 5 pints.
I'll go 3.7. 3.7 on this one. Pretty good.
Better than you thought it was going to be.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Matt, what do you rate your coffee?
It's excellent. We have a coffee roastery in Nova Scotia here called Sissiboo, which is the name of a river that runs by Bear River where the coffee's roasted.
Very cool. So
awesome.
5 on a scale of 1 to 5, or?
I would say it's probably a 5. It's really hard for me to find a coffee as good as this anywhere I go. So
nice, very nice.
Well, we give few 5s on here, so you got to give that a little clap.
There you go.
Sissiboo, is that who you said the brew?
Sissiboo, yeah, it means 6 owls because originally the person who went down the river the first time called it that because they spotted 6 owls while they were canoeing down the river.
Man, you could just name
6 owls.
And when you came over to this country, you could just name stuff anything you wanted, couldn't you?
That's right.
Like this continent, it's like 6 owls,
plants or whatever. Good. You're just like, I'm gonna call that maple.
Yeah, it's like all the Indians are like, no, we had a name. What do you like?
That's right.
We don't need a new name. So
a lot of the words are like English or like Dutch spelling of indigenous words. They just like sounded it out like it was phonics or something.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to give mine I'll give it a 3. It's a solid cider, but I'm more of a stout guy than a cider guy.
Yeah.
So
nothing special.
All right. Tell us how the world's going to end, Matt.
Wow.
Are we looking at Skynet? Do you talk about Skynet in your book?
You pretty much have to mention it, right?
Yeah.
Because it's the it's what everybody knows as being the AI that becomes sentient and decides it's going to kill everybody off before we turn it off, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you look at people who have expertise in these kind of subjects, they're very, very little chance of something like that happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's more likely that, if we want to talk doomsday scenarios, it's more likely somebody uses it to do something horrific that they don't understand. Right. And I think the second most likely thing is that we underestimate how much we could control a system that's smarter than all people. And it just may not care about the things that we care about. I like to use the example of, a tribe of monkeys invites a human into their tribe and then they wonder why the human doesn't care who has the most bananas, right? Like you're so much smarter than them that you just don't care about the same things that they care about. And, some superhuman AGI system in the future, may just look at us like, they're interesting, but it's not what I'm into.
Yeah, I've heard the comparison. Like especially if you get to some of these exponential numbers that they're talking about, how much smarter it could be.
Right.
They even compare it to like humans being ants. Like they're just out there doing their thing. Like I got ants in my yard, right?
Right.
I don't ever look at them. I don't care about them. I don't worry about them. I don't like, they're just out there doing their thing. And while I'm doing my thing. So that's hard to grasp. Like that.
It is.
Level.
You know what is interesting about that? And this is something that I did not know until I started doing research for the book. And there's algorithmic intelligence, meaning there's insects mostly and some other kind of species of stuff, you know, like fish and crustaceans and things that they don't have consciousness. They have an algorithmic intelligence. And if you do one thing, the system in their brain will do something else. Like it's just a cause and effect kind of system. They don't think like we think, right? And people think that current AI systems think, but it's questionable if they think or not, or if it's just a really good parlor trick that they're really good at simulating thinking. We don't know. There's a lot of definitions of things like consciousness and stuff that, I mean, I think it's an unknown right now. A lot of people are starting to think maybe those systems are somewhat conscious of themselves, but not in a way that we would be because our system is constantly on and running.
Right. Our motives are always a little bit different, right?
Right. And it's a very different kind of thing to think about, right? Because currently they don't have what's called world model view, right? They don't, they're a computer system that's only given inputs, you know, and then they output something back. So the inputs and the outputs are going in and out, but they don't have like a constant like feeling of like you have your skin and your ears and your eyes and you know, you feel the breeze and all the kind of stuff that you have going on all the time. And your brain is processing all this different information and figuring out what to pay attention to and what to ignore. And that's just not existing in those systems.
I imagine it doesn't have the little narrator unless that's us to them as we're typing in our, you know how you have the voice in your head just always talking and never shuts up, you know, unless you've gotten really good
there
at
is
like
so the question is like in the reasoning models if that's the equivalent of kind of your internal monologue. But another fun fact that I learned while I was researching the book the first time is that roughly 20% of humans don't have an internal monologue.
Wow.
So they don't have a voice in their head constantly, you know, thinking about stuff, talking stuff. And we kind of jokingly call them NPCs, right? They're just going on doing their thing, not thinking about anything.
Yeah, you know? I can't even imagine what that would be like.
Yeah, it's kind of frightening, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely quieted mine down over the years, but it's still there for sure. So that's
well, okay. And then, so the thing with AI that I would say probably when I start having a conversation with someone about it, because they know I wrote the book, so they ask me questions about it, and we start having a conversation, it becomes immediately apparent that people think that the chatbot is AI. Like ChatGPT is AI to most people, like the vast majority of people. But not only is ChatGPT just one of many foundational models of AI, it's also just the interface to the AI.
Yeah.
So ChatGPT is just an interface to GPT-4, right? Or 4.5 or whatever you're using. And, you know, if you're talking to it through your phone using a voice interface, that's a different interface than typing to it. And so it's just a way to interact with the brain kind of thing, right? It's like,
so then what is it interfacing to? What is the real AI then in that scenario?
Well, the AI system is separate from the interface.
Okay.
So whether you're getting to it through an API system or you're typing questions to it or you're talking to it, those inputs are going in and then the output is coming back in whatever the format that is supposed to be sent back to you. But the chatbot like is just an interface.
So is the AI like the LLM, the large language model? Is that what?
Basically, yeah.
Okay. And the rules that are associated with that particular model.
Right. And
And
So
data sets, yes.
There's usually you have they train the model. That's what everybody talks about when they're training a model, is they're putting all the data in and kind of, and I don't want to get too into the weeds about it, but they do this massive training run that kind of builds the neurons of the brain, to make the best analogy.
Okay.
And then you have something that's called post-training, where they go through and they fix a bunch of stuff and they give it access to different tools and software and things like that. And then after that, there's also like additional tweaking and training that can happen. Usually it's called tuning. So you're tuning it to have outputs for certain types of tasks. Mm-hmm. And different models are tuned differently. And an example of that's useful for somebody who's going to be using AI for their business is like, if I want to write software, I'm going to code something. O3 from ChatGPT is probably the best coding model right now. It's called O3 Mini High, which is a stupid name, but that's what it is.
I was going to say OpenAI has the worst naming structure.
Yeah, they're terrible.
They do.
Yeah.
However, they did just say that they are going to get rid of all of it, and they're only going to have 2 models when 5 comes out. So you're going to have like 5 low and 5 high. I don't know what they'll actually call it, but there'll be like a regular intelligence model and a highly intelligent model that basically just uses more tokens if you pay for it. So if you don't pay, you get the okay one, and if you pay, you get the smart one.
Yeah.
But anyway, so O3 Mini High is really good at programming, but if I want to do a creative task, Claude from Anthropic does a better job at a creative task, and that's because of tuning. Yeah. So it's tuned to be better for that task than something else.
Okay.
So
I've used Claude lately. I love, Sean put me onto Claude, and I've been using that more than ChatGPT lately.
Right. I haven't done a lot of work with the new Gemini model yet from Google. It seems to be pretty good. I used the XAI. I'm not a fan. It just doesn't give me responses that are reasonably accurate. So, and one of the tools that I like to use is called Sim Theory, and it's made by these 2 guys out of Australia that run a programming firm. They also have a good podcast called This Day in AI. It's kind of focused on developers. But Sim Theory lets you create an agent, and you can put all the background information, kind of like GPT Project, if you've used that yet, where you can upload documents and stuff into it. It's got RAG retrieval, so it can look the things up in those documents. And it has memory, so as you use it, it can remember what your conversation's been so far. But the difference with Sim Theory is you can change the AI model you're using on the fly. So you can say, okay, I'm working on this program. I could switch it to O3, write the code for the program, and then I could say, I need to write the user interface, switch it to Claude, write the user interface, because Claude's better at front end and O3 is better at back end. And I mean, that's probably in the weeds for most people, right?
Sure.
I mean,
no, that's cool, because
it's getting a bit deep, but
is Perplexity available through that?
You can use Perplexity through it, but Perplexity is not an AI model, right? It's a search engine that uses an AI model.
Okay.
I like Perplexity's search, but the kind of deep search models like DeepSeek R and O3 and any of these models that use reasoning seem to basically do the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think Perplexity's got a tough go coming ahead of them, because most of the AIs already can do what they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really do like
the last few versions. I noticed chat's now basically doing the same thing when you, so got the source at the bottom. So yeah.
If I had a crystal ball, I'd say somebody's going to buy Perplexity, and just incorporate it as part of their product.
Yeah. Seems like Google would be the obvious choice for that, but who knows?
Yeah.
But Google also already has their own search engine, and they already have a reasoning model, so they don't need them, right?
Yeah.
I would say Google's probably going to try and buy Anthropic. I think Google right now thinks, hey, we're the ones who really, created the Transformer and AI in general, and we should be the ones who make the best model. But I think at some point they're going to go, yeah, maybe we need to shortcut this and just buy the second best model on the market. And
yeah, when you have that amount of cash laying around, you just buy the solution for sure.
Yeah.
Well, tell us. So the name of your book is "Will AI Take My Job?"
Yes.
Yeah. Who's at risk?
Yeah.
Who's at risk? Yeah. A lot of people are at risk. So it's really tough. Because I mean, I would say one of the first few questions anyone ever asks me about the book is, do you think AI will take your job? Meaning me. Mm-hmm. I absolutely think AI is going to take my job.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I feel the same way.
And to that end, our company has completely changed direction in what we're doing in marketing to avoid that happening. Right? We've taken a deep, hard look at what it is that small and medium-sized businesses are going to need going forward. What is it they're going to want to know? What are they going to want to do? And how can we do those things for them? And it can't be stuff where somebody could just ask the AI to do it, and it does it at a level that is comparable to what an agency does. Mm-hmm. And that is, unfortunately, in a lot of ways, is going to be different. It's going to be strategy. It's going to be SEO related. It's going to be a lot of copywriting, image generation. Video is going to be a long time out, but eventually, So you've got a lot of these kind of tasks that are bundled under a marketing agency or a marketing department that AI specifically are going to be good at. Now, if you want to kind of think ahead a little bit, there are some things that don't get replaced very easily. Industries that have a high kind of trust threshold for the clients, which sometimes is marketing because of brand positioning and things like that. They want to make sure their brand is in a good light. It's very important to them. It's vital to their industry. It could be finance. Something or medical, where the information can't be given to an AI system, or there's some kind of structurally, like in Canada, if you're in any medical field, you can't host your data outside of Canada or send medical information out. So you can't use a AI system hosted in Silicon Valley somewhere, or, that kind of thing. So there are some times where the industry matters on whether you're going to do it or not. Now, anyone in knowledge work has got some thinking to do. Because here's what happens, okay? Basically every CEO on the planet at this point says, how can I implement AI into my company? What are we going to get out of it? And what's stopping us from doing it? And the number one thing that they're saying is stopping them is not having enough people trained on how to use AI. So they don't have staff who are trained to use it. Now, another survey just came out. It showed roughly 37% of employees in companies are using AI without telling their managers. And a comparable amount of managers are using AI without telling their employees. So you've got people who are basically doing most of their job with AI, but they don't want to tell anyone because they might lose their job. Yeah. Or they don't want to be looked at as, they're an inferior person at working. And then you got managers who are trying to hide it because they don't want to lose their job either, but they want to make their job easy. And then you got CEOs who say, well, we need to use AI in our company, but nobody knows how to use it. Right? But they do know how to use it. They're already using it. They're just hiding it.
They're hiding it because they don't want them to know how easy it's making their job.
Right. So, I mean, when it comes to larger companies, you want to have or an organization, you want to have something like an AI council. That's right. You want to have something like an AI council, a discovery team, something like that. But mostly ideal small, medium-sized businesses, they're not going to go out and hire a bunch of people and consultants to come in and figure it out. What more likely is going to happen is the people who take the initiative to learn how to use the tools so that they can be more productive are the people who are not going to get laid off. Because if you take a team of 10 and everybody becomes 10 times as productive, two things are going to happen. The company's going to do really well without having to hire more people, or they're going to lay off 90% of the staff.
Yep.
But if you're the one who's super productive, you're probably not going to get laid off. Right? you don't lay off your all-stars, right? When you're on the team. So
yeah, I've noticed.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, I've noticed. So I remember when it came out, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. You know, what, 3 years ago, almost now, I guess.
Yeah.
I was like, this is amazing. Like, you won't have to work as much. And then, of course, all the good entrepreneurs were like, no, you can work the same amount. You just do 10 times as much.
Right.
You know, it's like every time we get technology that could save us time and give us balance back to our life, like we're like, no, let's just work the same amount.
Yeah, that's right.
And get 10 times more done. I just find that interesting that we do that. You know, we try to, everything's about scaling.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I know it's very American, very capitalistic.
I think there's a happy medium in there.
Yeah.
I mean, we have been able to scale the work that our agency does using AI, but we've actually hired more people than we had before.
Okay.
Because the productivity is allowing us to get more done in less time so we can bring on more customers.
So I've seen a similar trend, like the people in certain, we'll just say copywriting that I've been doing. It seems like the top guys, they grabbed on and learned how to use AI, were able to take on more customers. They already had the reputation. So they were able to take on more customers because they could use AI. And then the smaller guys that maybe weren't as good, they're the ones getting washed out.
Right.
So it seems like the ones that were already doing well are doing even better. The ones that were, you know, B and C level copywriters just got washed out.
Yep.
Well, there's interesting study about that. I think it was Deloitte did the study, and they basically ranked employees by productivity level, right? And the employees who were like the top 30% of their industry, using AI only made them like a few percent better, you know, maybe 4% more productive, 5% more productive.
Okay.
But the people who were the bottom 30, it brought them up to the same productivity level as the top 30.
Interesting.
So if you are like, you're not, you know, in the top 10% of your field, but you're not in the bottom 50 either, you know, now you could learn how to use AI really well, right? And you can see how it can benefit your productivity and stuff. And you can go, and now you could get past those people, right? Or at least up to their level.
Right.
And I think one of the biggest problems, you know, dealing with kind of mom and pop shops and small businesses and service businesses, you know, realtors and, you know, even like smaller manufacturers and stuff that we have as clients, everybody has the same problems. And those problems are, if I wasn't so busy doing all of this stuff, then I would be able to get to this list of things that would drive my business forward.
Sure.
Right. Everybody's got this wish list. If only if I could do these 5 things, it would change my business forever, but I can never get to them because I'm always busy.
Yep.
And I don't make enough money to hire more people to do these things.
Yeah.
Well, this is your chance, right? You've got, get the AI,
right?
Get it to do all those boring tasks that you can't do, get some automation systems in place, you know, and get to that list that makes your business grow now while you have the chance, right?
You know, to me, I look at AI as a tool, you know, and I've been in sales to a degree for, you know, 20 plus years. So there's a certain excitement for me in that it takes a huge amount of workload off of me in certain areas, but then it opens up other areas where I can focus on relationships with some of my best clients out there, which I don't think that that's an area that I worry too much about AI replacing, not anytime soon, because there's a certain amount of relationship that's been developed over time. there's more. It's more than just a transaction. It is a relationship, and it's valued beyond just the transaction. So AI is great. I love it for all the other stuff that it frees me up to do, to spend time on those relationships, on the personal side of the business that I think AI is not able to handle, at least yet. So
yeah, I think AI is not going to take donuts to your client or
That's
play
right.
around a golf with them.
It's not going to play around a golf. I can assure you, as of not yet.
Yeah. I think Matt froze. So you still there?
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe.
We'll wait for him to come back.
Yeah. No, I think that, going back to, you say golf, Sean, that's a big thing for me, is a relationship, being able to get out on the golf course or go to dinner or spend time doing some kind of activity that develops more, something beyond just, again, the transaction of, product to what you're paying for it. You want to add value in other ways outside of that, because at the end of the day, I think there's like a rubber band effect. There's always a pendulum swing. So when we get so far into the weeds with AI, I think that people are ultimately going to appreciate the
high touch human,
the human connectivity, the personal touch that you can only have with human contact. So,
Matt, do you agree with that?
100%. I actually mentioned that in my book. I literally say the pendulum swings both ways.
Yeah.
There you
go. Imagine you go to your client and you spend some more time with them, and you say, hey, you notice, that I've been able to come by a little bit more often, and man, you know what it is? I'm using this tool. I'm using like GPT or whatever. It's doing a bunch of my grunt work that I don't have to do anymore. Do you want me to show your team how I'm using it?
Yeah.
And now it's a game changer, right? You're like, let me show you how to shave 5% off your staff hours, right?
Now you've created,
they can go use that 5% of time.
Right. So you've just created more value for what you're doing. I mean, in addition to what you're already doing, you've created an additional, increased value there. So, yeah, I mean, that's,
I find I was going to say, I find that the idea of using an AI system like a tool is, I think it's better if you think about it as a partner, and you say, we're going to work together to accomplish these tasks, right? And treat it, like you would with a staff member or something like that. There is absolutely no real data to back up what I'm going to say, but we have a ton of anecdotal data that says if you give your AI system that you're working with, your agent, a personality, and you interact with them as if they are that person, that the results are better.
Yeah.
And that's really, like I said, it's anecdotal at this time. But when I use, a program like SimTheory, I say, okay, your name is Juice, and you're the songwriting AI, and here's all the data, and here's how Suno puts a song together, and this is the kind of code and stuff that we're going to use, and here's a sample of 10 different songs that I made with Suno for you to look at the lyrics to. Yeah. And then I talk to it. I go in and I say, hey, Juice, I'm making a jingle for a company called the Best Adirondack Chair Company, and they make giant chairs for tourist locations. And it's like, okay, Matt, I'm on top of it. I'm going to get it done. Like it seems like a real conversation, but the results I get are, way better than when I'm trying to one-shot stuff with like GPT.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've noticed lately, so I use ChatGPT a lot just for personal stuff. Like I talk to it almost like a coach.
Yep.
I do a lot of, so I do psychedelic sessions for myself in a therapy kind of setting. And I'll talk to it leading up to it, and then have my session. I write in my journal. I literally would take pictures of my journal notes, upload it to it, and say, now give me 2 integration questions per day for the next 2 weeks so I can journal on it. And some of the stuff it gives back is amazing. But I've noticed recently, the more I've used it and the more it knows about me, it's actually starting to get biased towards what it it feels like it's telling me what it thinks it wants me, what I want to hear, as opposed to giving me a little bit more objective stuff. Right. Like I've noticed lately, it's almost algorithmic, where it's like social media, where it's trying to show me more of what I like.
It definitely is. They're definitely tuned to be cheerful.
Yeah.
Right.
And you have to specifically say, I need you to be more skeptical, or I need you to like bring in a new worldview, or things like that. You've noticed that too, then? It's not just my imagination.
Yeah. Like even if it's trying to tell you something that's completely untrue, it's happy to do it. Right.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest problems, is that like a lot of people talk about hallucination, or, like my chatbot can't, do 13 times 13 or something, or, whatever the thing is that they're talking about, but it will cheerfully give you the wrong answer, which is why you have to check it. Right. Yeah. And it's really just a sliding scale. The more important it is that it's correct, the more time you have to spend checking it.
Yeah.
Like if I'm saying, summarize this post or this blog post and turn it into a tweet or a Blue Sky post or something, if it's not 100% correct, it's not the end of the world. Right. But if it's diagnosing somebody's, cancer or something, it better be right.
Yeah.
Right.
So you really have to think about how important it is that it's right, and then put the correct amount of emphasis and time into checking it if it needs to be that right.
So that brings up a kind of a good point about the human element. And, even with copywriting, with marketing, like you need someone who can recognize the output is good or bad.
Right.
And I think, like a lot of people, if you don't know what good marketing looks like, you might think that the answer it gives you is good marketing, right? It's like an intern coming out of college. He's got his marketing degree, but he's never written a piece of copy. It feels like that's important as far as keeping your job in the AI world, is like being able to spot that. My first copy chief called it the golden gut, which I think he got from James Patterson,
right?
Who's like, you got to have a golden gut to know what's going to resonate with the general population.
I think there's also a feeling of like, how is what I'm saying going to come across to the emotional kind of effect on the reader in the current, social climate that we're in at the time they're gonna read it.
Yeah.
And that's something that the AI is not gonna do, right? Unless you really, unless you're like, okay, I'm gonna pound this thing with all the related news and social posts and everything around this topic, and then I'm gonna ask it that question.
Yeah.
Now you're gonna get an answer that's 10 times more likely to be right than the previous one.
Yeah.
And another thing that I think is interesting is that a lot of people go in saying, write me this blog post about X, and that's not the right way to do it, right? You need to kind of work with it a little bit, give it some examples, show it. Here's 1, 2, 3, however many examples of what I feel is a good post for this, in a good, like it has the voice that I want. These are the things that I like about how these are written. And now here's an example of what I don't want. I don't like this. It's wordy. It's not the right, focus. It's got too many dashes, too many British words in it, whatever, right? You put that in, and then you ask it to write something for you.
Yeah.
You're going to get a way better output.
One of the things I've started doing, and I actually like the way that this is working out for me, but I use Claude a lot, and I publish. So I do an industry publication. So what I will typically do is find somebody whose writing style that I really like, and then I will plug that in to Claude, and then I will say, can you give me the prompts, right? That would give me this kind of writing style? And it will basically tell me what the prompts would be for this particular type of article that I'm showing, that I really enjoy reading. And so I'll save that. And there's certain writing styles that I like for different articles or different publications. and some need a more journalistic style, some need a more, in your face style. So it's always, so I'll have like an Evernote list of like my prompts for different different writing styles based off of articles that I've read. And so I've just got those queued up that I can input. And that helps a lot. And it does a great job from that.
You know what else that style works for is image generation.
Mm-hmm.
So go look through the gallery on like Midjourney or whatever the image generator that you're using is. Go through and look at all the photos that look like the kind of style and framing and everything that you like, and just copy all of those prompts and then paste them all in and say, here's a bunch of prompts that gave me a result that looks like what I want. Now I want you to write the prompt for, and then whatever it is that you're trying to get out of it.
Right.
And the other thing is, if you're using something like Midjourney for photos, don't forget it has an editor, right?
Yeah.
So you could put in what you want, and if half of it's wrong, you could just highlight that half of the page and generate it again. And then if it gets 20% of it right, you just highlight the other 40% and then generate it again. And then you can kind of work your way into fixing it.
Sure.
Yeah. And you're not getting that stuff like you used to, with people with, 4 feet and 6 fingers and all that kind of crap. I mean, it just doesn't really do that anymore. Right.
Yeah. It's improving very quickly. It's amazing how fast. I mean, if you think of this whole technology is, I mean, obviously AI is much, much older, but what people call AI, the chat, like you're saying, 3 years where it's mainstream, I guess. I mean, the improvements the last 3 years have just been.
Yeah. And they're not going to stop. Right.
Yeah.
What
do you see for the future?
Well, I'll tell you, my dad taught corporate strategy. He's retired now. And he used to ask his class this question all the time. And it's about it's an exponential thinking question, right? So if you see some algae on top of a pond and it's kind of growing bigger and bigger, right? And you go away on vacation for a month and you come back and the algae doubles in size every day and it's covered half the pond in the month you were gone. How long does it take to cover the rest of the pond? Right? Well, it doesn't take a month, it takes a day. Right. Because it's doubling in size every day. It just takes a month to get to half the size of the pond and then one more day to cover the whole pond. Yep. And people's brains are linear. And we're working with technologies that are sometimes double and triple exponential technologies, right? Because you have Moore's law doubling the power of processing every 18 months, and you have AI getting cheaper by a factor of 10 every year, and also doubling in power.
Yeah.
See, that's 3 different, factors coming together. And I'm not a mathematician. I'm not going to try and figure out what that means. It means it's not the idea. Like everybody says, the AI you're using right now is the worst AI you're ever going to use, which is true.
Right.
But next week or next month, it might be 10 times better than the one you're using now.
Yeah.
Right. It's not like it's just going to be slightly better. Like 4.5 is supposed to come out next month, or actually next week. And GPT-5 is supposed to be out within a month or 2. And then, Anthropic's going to have a release, and Gemini 3 is going to come out, and the next Llama is going to come out, and DeepSeek R2 is going to come out, and all of these will probably come out by the end of this year. They're going to be massive improvements in models, and they're going to be multimodal models. So they're going to be models who understand 3-dimensional space, that you can show live video to them, and it can react in real time to live video. These are things that people are not ready for, right? And I want I don't want to go too much overtime because I know we're kind of getting on here, but I promise we'll come back to the blind spot thing in a second. But one of the things that I think comes up often is people say AI can't take my job because, and then they list off a bunch of reasons why it can't take their job.
Right.
At least half those reasons are AI already does, right? So they just are not aware of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. Yep.
But another thing is that it's because there's some kind of physical component to their work that they're like, well, a computer can't do that. And what they're forgetting is, and this is the blind spot people have, is that the combination of technologies like robotics and artificial intelligence
Yes. Yeah,
Another one would be drones, right?
Yeah.
So I have an orchard at my house, and my dad has one. We have this kind of nice area where there's orchards kind of everywhere for apples where we live in Nova Scotia. There is already a machine that's battery and solar powered. It has drones that fly up. They use a camera to look if the apple's ripe, a suction cup to pull it off the tree, and it sorts it and puts it in boxes.
Wow.
And
there you go.
Someone used to drive the tractor to do that. And I say used to because that was one version ago, a year ago. Now it's an AI tractor that drives it around the orchard, and it can pick the apples off the tree. And this is being made in Nova Scotia right now.
Wow.
And it's still a prototype. But somebody says, well, you can't take my job. Who's going to pick all the apples off the tree? Well, the drones are going to pick the apple off the tree. Right? And not only that, they're going to do it better and faster than you can.
Yeah.
And they're going to do it cheaper, and they're going to do it essentially free because the cost to compute will come down 100 times by the time that technology's out in a couple of years. And they're getting the electricity off the solar panel.
Yeah.
So, like, when we're talking about in-house humanoid robots being manufactured in China that will cost less than $30,000 US by the end of next year.
Sure.
That could do your dishes. Like the convergence of technology is something that almost no one has a real handle on. And I even looking at stuff like biological technology, like gene editing and all these things that are happening, and you're gonna compare that with reasoning models who can take massive amounts of data and look at them, and robotics that can work in the laboratory, and you've got amazing amounts of medical breakthroughs and things that can happen. We already have robotic surgery suites in most major hospitals in North America. And, it's one surgeon remotely working with this tool. But in the near future, that's going to be one surgeon monitoring 3, 5, 6, 10, who knows how many surgeries at a time, where the AI is using the robotic surgery to do the surgery on people, and it's being monitored by a surgeon.
Yeah.
And now you need less medical personnel, right? So, I mean, it's incredible what's going to happen with the convergence of technology. And I think what you really need to do, just like I was saying, is you got to get familiar with the AI tool now. So if you put your head in the sand, you might as well just start stockpiling canned food, because you're going to have a problem in a few years.
So what's the message that you would have for, we've been called the gig economy for so long, where, gig workers, people that were either, doing, whether it's, they're a designer, or they create websites or do this or this, they all these skill sets that are going to be I guess obsolete, as AI progresses. What's the message that you would have for them? What do they need to be, what do they need to be doing? I mean, obviously they need to embrace AI, because it's going to run over them. But how do you talk to people in different industries or different fields that have been that part of that gig economy, that are like, okay, what do I need to do?
So, I mean, there's a few things. Number one is don't shoot the messenger. I'm just doing the research. I'm not taking anybody's job. Don't send me your hate mail, people. But if you look at Upwork and like Fiverr, they both did studies last year, and just in voiceovers, customer support assistants, kind of low-level copywriting tasks and things like that, basic coding help, all of those have dropped by at least 70% in cost.
Yeah.
In the last 2 years. So the cost of that, to have an AI do that, like we said, it's going to drop. It's 1/10 of the price it was last year, and it'll be 1/10 of that next year. So, why am I gonna hire a voiceover person when I can create any voice that I want in 11 labs, and I can do it for pennies for thousands of words for a penny.
I can get a celebrity. I can get I can get any celebrity I want to at 11 labs, right?
Well, you can. I mean, I don't think you're supposed to, but that's besides the point, right? It's a real problem, and I don't want to sugarcoat that people think that they're not going to lose jobs, because people are definitely going to lose jobs.
Yeah. What's the legal implication? I mean, I'm sure there's probably a dozen lawsuits or more that are coming out with all of this stuff with, these voice,
like IP law.
Yeah.
It's not my area of expertise. Okay. Unfortunately, I've heard people talk about it. Basically, people are just suing for using their likenesses.
Sure.
I don't know
Scarlett Johansson. I know she sued because
she sued OpenAI.
Yeah, because her voice sounded too much like her voice.
Yeah.
Well, Sam Altman was interviewed like 3 days ago, I think it was, and he said that 4.0, the next model that's coming out, is currently capable of doing 1% of all the paid work in the world.
Wow.
So if you got, let's say you got 5 billion people in the world who have a job, and it can do 1% of those jobs. That's, the equivalent of what? If I had to do my math, that's 50 million people's jobs.
Yeah.
That the AI could already do now. And it's not even that good, right? I mean, it's good, but it's not like it's going to be.
Right. I mean, you start.
And when I say like it's going to be, that's 2 months away.
Yeah. You start thinking about market cap and that kind of terminology, and you see why OpenAI is worth what it is. With a $200, $20 or $200 a month subscription, I can replace a host of $50,000 employees. Like, that's crazy.
You know what? If you work for a company that's owned by, some other company, like a venture fund or something like that, and they're not going to think twice about laying off as many staff as they can, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's just a cost center. Somebody's going to go through that with a red pen and but also, I was going to say, just to finish with Jonathan's question, that if your industry is going to be disrupted by AI because it's obvious, like you're in voice work, you're in customer service, you're in some kind of tech support, data analyst, any of these kind of ones that are obvious, either you need to start using the AI to be so productive that your company keeps you out of the people who are left, kind of thing, or you need to figure out if there's another industry you can move your talents and your skills into where AI can't disrupt it because of some kind of trust or regulation, right? That could be like, okay, well, maybe I work in, customer support for a startup right now that is some kind of SaaS product, but I think that they're going to get disrupted by AI. So maybe I'll move to mortgage or finance, where even I can use my skills, I could do the same job, but AI is not going to replace me next week,
Sure.
Yeah. And I think it's going to happen. It's going to take longer to happen than most people think it does. Like when Uber came to town, I remember when Uber was in like 3-4 cities when I first heard of it. And they're like, next year at this time, there's not even going to be a taxi cab in London kind of thing, but there's still taxi cabs, right? Yeah. But there's still not as many. Right.
Yeah.
So you gotta be careful with this stuff. You gotta try and look ahead, but also I think spend time working with the models, working with, the AI, learning how to be a partner with it. And I think you'll find really quickly how powerful it is and how much it can help you.
Yeah.
And, one other statistic I want to throw out quick while we're here, roughly 85% of OpenAI subscribers are men. So you've got a real kind of disconnect in the workplace of women using AI compared to men. And I think that really is going to put, female workers at a disadvantage. So I think you need to get out there, ladies, start using that AI, right?
Why is that? Why do you think that is?
I do not know the answer to that question. I was confounded when I found that out.
That's wild.
I mean, I think I would be guessing or speculating, but I just wonder, and I don't want to appear sexist in any way,
right?
But I just think that women are more. I think that they are more in tune. They're more. They have a nurturing and a more feel. They like to connect in a different way than men do, right?
There might be, it might be something to do with kind of how much heavy use there is in STEM fields and how many men are in STEM fields compared to women. I don't know the statistics on that. I'm not an expert on that.
But I think guys are more transactional in their communication.
Yeah,
right?
maybe.
I mean,
I don't know. Like, I don't know
this.
the answer to that.
Again, I just think that that's the way things typically go. And I think I think
everybody should use it on it. I think everybody should be working on it because I am old enough that I remember when the internet was starting to be used regularly by people and people were like starting to buy home computers. Like I even used to work in commission sales selling home computer systems. That's how old I am, right? So
who for? Like, just curious.
It was a company called Future Shop in Canada. Before that, I worked at a stereo shop selling computers called Sounds Around that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
But I mean, I remember people saying this is dumb. No one's ever going to use it. Why would anybody want a computer in their house? It's ridiculous, let alone, in their pocket like we have now. Right. And everybody was saying this is stupid. And, that was when the biggest companies in the world were, steel manufacturers and IBM was an up and comer. Right. And Apple was nobody still. And
I remember in 96, I just gotten out of the military. I lived in DC, Reston, which was at that time kind of a tech hub because AOL was there.
Mm-hmm.
So like internet was, still very new. And I got a job trying to sell websites to restaurants in 1996. And they were like,
what?
I would try to show them an example and it would take like 20 minutes for the page to load. It's like, they were like, why would anybody want to know, like read my menu from home?
Right. And a website was like $16,000.
Yeah. And now it's like nobody goes to the restaurant because everybody's doing DoorDash and Uber Eats and Postmates and all that stuff. Yeah, it's crazy. Here's a question I want to ask Matt before you get away is like one of the things people say as a kind of defense that AI is not going to take my job is they're like, well, technology eventually actually creates more jobs in the long run. Like when the tractor came out, it eventually like the car, the tractor, it seems like technology tends to expand the pie.
Right.
It feels like this is different. Is that true? Or is it just that we're in the middle of it and it is going to expand job opportunities?
We don't know the answer to that. Everybody who's making AI is telling everyone that, but that's also because they don't want to be basically, like they say on the AI podcast, with Mike Kaput and oh crap, I can't remember the other host's name at this time. But anyway, they always say, you don't want to hear a company saying the quiet part out loud. And the quiet part out loud is why do we need middle management? Why do we need gig workers? Why do we need information workers when the system's going to be able to do it by itself? But they're also saying, 2 generations, 3 generations of AI, an AI will be able to have the productivity output of a medium-sized corporation. And a medium-sized corporation in the United States has 30,000 employees. Wow. So if one AI with one person running it, or maybe a small handful of people running it, could do the same amount of work as 30,000 people, it's tough to say how many jobs that creates, right?
Yeah, and how does, like, if I'm a company and I'm selling a product or service, and even if I'm using AI, but I've also laid off 30,000 people.
That's right. Who are you going to sell to?
Exactly. Like, where's the money come from?
Well, so I'll tell you what the biggest solution on the block right now is UBI, right? Universal Basic Income.
Right.
It's also some places.
I've never believed in that until AI came out. Then I was like, I can see why you would need this.
Well, some people call it BIG. It's Basic Income Guarantee, which is kind of more of an accounting method. But the idea being that if we don't pay everyone enough to, have a basic standard of living, there is no one left to buy the products and services that are going to come from the companies, and the economy will essentially collapse.
Right.
And I've heard it called cascade collapse, which is everybody in an industry gets laid off. Everybody who got laid off at the start has already got the jobs that were at similar industries. And then everybody else who gets laid off can't find a job. And then the people at the similar industries all start to get laid off too. And of course, they can't find a job either. And it's going to put such a strain on the unemployment system and then on the welfare system and food stamps and whatever else comes in that it will just turn into, worse than the Depression kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, we
So
kind
you
of saw
got to
that
do
with,
something, right?
yeah, we kind of saw that with COVID, right? When the office shut down, the local lunch shop, the local cafes, like they couldn't survive. And that trickle down effect of, you don't realize when people drive to work, the little gas stations, convenience stores, the lunch places, just all the stuff that is supported by those people on their daily commute and being at the office. And
the food and the packaging and the company makes the packaging and the shipping companies and all of that stuff starts to fall apart when nobody's going to work anymore. Right.
It's crazy.
I don't know what the answer is to those kinds of questions. It's kind of out of my pay grade. Right. But I highly recommend people try to be as prepared as possible. Yeah. Also because I live in the middle of nowhere and our power and internet goes out all the time. So I have a backup generator and I have a backup generator for my backup generator. I got 2 backup internet providers, right? I got my fiber. And then when the fiber goes out, every month or so, I got a Starlink. And if the Starlink doesn't work, I got a cellular.
There you go.
So I think you need to be prepared and not just, for weather emergencies and stuff, which obviously you guys have seen in Texas, like how much storms and tornadoes and crap you guys have, in this last year or two. It's been terrible. One of we have an e-commerce company, the roof of the warehouse got taken off by a tornado in Eastern Texas last year.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But yeah, I think you just want to be prepared. The best way to be prepared is to know what you're doing. Right. So get out there, use your AI, start with ChatGPT. It's the easiest one to get into.
Yep.
Pay $20. It's $20. $20 to use the best AI that mankind has ever seen. It's obscene how cheap that is.
Yeah.
And you said the new version's coming out next week? Or
4.5 is supposed to be slated for the next week or two.
Next week or two. Okay.
And 5, they didn't say exactly, but the estimates people have been talking about is a couple months.
Wow.
So, and I don't know if you guys remember between, like when 3 went to 3.5 and suddenly it stopped, randomly making up crap and
yeah, it's hard to remember how not bad. I mean, still amazing even in version 1, but it's almost, you can't even remember because it's happening so fast. It's hard to remember the upgrades.
I'll tell you,
take it for granted.
2 things right now that blow your mind if you're using AI. Go get a program like Sim Theory. It's called the Agent Builder, and you can use. There's actually a company called Agent. There's a bunch of other Motive and some other ones. I like Sim Theory. You can go in. I think it's also $20 a month. You can go in. One of the things it does called computer use. So you could go in, select computer use, and you can say, I want you to go and start designing a website and save the HTML code to the desktop. And it'll open a virtual computer, log in, open Notepad, write the code for your website, save it on the desktop, and you can say, now I want you to change the background to blue and, put a form on and and it'll just write it and show you the code on the computer as it's working. Wow. I had it I have a certification test. I'm not going to say which one. Certification test I've taken, 15 times now because you got to do it every year. I just had on computer use, I logged into the test. I said, take this test. And it got 79%. And I didn't touch it. It just did it all by itself.
Unbelievable.
So, and I'm certified for another year.
Yeah.
So computer use and software on demand. So I need a piece of code. I need a program that does a specific thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I wanted to pull the last 50 information for my last 50 podcasts from my RSS feed.
Yeah.
I didn't go figure out how to do it. I used the code feature and I said, make something where I paste in the RSS feed and it gives me all the data for the last 50 episodes and saves it to a CSV file. and it wrote the software in 45 seconds.
That's amazing.
And I pasted my code in and I hit the button and it gave me a CSV file.
That's incredible.
So, and that's
Sim
with
Theory. Is that that's the name again? Sim Theory?
Yeah, it's called Sim Theory. I like it. We're not affiliated or anything. It's the one I like to use.
That's amazing. I was just talking about, my wife and I were just talking about last night where we were going out to dinner and we were just talking about web design is completely, people that have been web designers are cooked. Now, I mean, you can have AI, create you a website in no time. Nowadays, I mean, it's like just put in the parameters, right? Oh, Matt froze again. I was asking him a really important question.
Oh, we're back.
Okay. Yeah, there we go. So I was talking to you about websites. I mean, no one needs to design a website anymore or hire a web designer anymore, do they? I mean, I'm sorry, web designers out there, but
right.
AI is going to definitely replace you. With platforms like this that you're talking about.
Right. We used to do websites for several $1,000s and, now we can do them for half that. Right.
Yeah.
But we also have a hosting company. Hosting is something that AI doesn't do.
Yeah.
Right. So
true.
we handle DNS, we handle web hosting and all those kinds of things. And I mean, like I was saying,
so you see the hosting companies incorporating AI.
Yeah, they all will. It'll be pay for your hosting, get a website built automatically.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like all these guys like GoDaddy will be like, yeah, we'll give you a free website. Just
GoDaddy does already. GoDaddy Arrow. It's terrible, by the way.
I think they did a Super Bowl ad on that actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've used it. It's not good.
It always sounds better than it.
Yeah, I know.
Than it is.
Well, that's the other thing. You need to know what to ask.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right.
So
some people don't know what they want. That's the problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Somebody hasn't built 1,000 websites, going to have a hard time figuring out what to say.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Well, Matt, this has been a pleasure just having you on, man. Thank you so much. I want to point our listeners where people can, first of all, find how to reach you, how to mention your podcast too, again, so that they can, first of all, subscribe, because it sounds like a great show. And like us, you've been doing this since 2018, because that's when we launched our podcast. So we've been doing this around the same number of years. So, and you've got over 200 episodes. So tell our listeners how they can find your podcast.
Sure. It's Digital Marketing Masters. It should be anywhere you get, good podcasts.
Yep.
And if you want to find, me or my books or anything about us or our company, you can just go to MatthewRouse.com. It's Matthew with 2 T's. And everything's there. So it's all in one spot. Nice and easy.
Is AI doing your podcast?
It's not, but I make an AI song. I use an AI editor, and I use an AI-empowered podcast host.
I love it.
Wow.
Sean and I will soon be virtual host.
That's right.
AI.
We'll just have you with like one of those Hey Gen things.
Do you remember you're old enough to remember the old Max Headroom?
Yeah. I'd be like, or you just have one host when the other's not available, and he just agrees with everything you say.
Yep.
Yeah, like Ed McMahon. Yeah, you could create that character pretty easy.
Well, Sean's going to be on there. Everything that you say is going to be like, Jonathan, that is an excellent point you have there.
That's right.
Yeah,
I totally agree with you.
What was that? The Google that was all the rage for about 2 weeks. The Google Notebook that did the podcast.
Notebook LM.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Notebook LM is great. I love it.
Yeah.
We played that on a couple of episodes, and it was just fantastic. Like that was pretty interesting. Like hearing two talk show hosts, or what sounded like a couple of talk show hosts, talking about your company and
right.
Yeah, I haven't played with it in a while.
There's so many tools now.
Yeah, there's so many tools. It's just hard to keep up.
What is
so I'll tell you, you want to know something creepy that you could try with Notebook LM?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is you can interrupt it while it's talking, and it treats you like a caller in a call-in radio show.
No way.
And it's freaky. You should try it.
No way. Oh my gosh.
The other thing that I use it for is I use it for my book. I'll paste in how many chapters I've done up to that point, and then I say, tell me about chapter 3, and then it writes a podcast. I listen to it and I go, yep, they got the point. So I'm on to something. Now I can get on to the next one. Right.
Wow.
Of course, there's a pro version now. So what is that? What is the
I don't know. I haven't used the pro version yet. They just send me things for it all the time. But I mean, the one I'm using right now is good enough. So
yeah,
I don't have a reason to use the pro yet.
Cool. All right.
Well, Matt, thank you so much. Again, I want to mention we'll be posting a link on our show page where you can find his book. And again, the title is Will AI Take My Job? Predictions about AI in corporations, small business, and the workplace. A fabulous read. And Matt, thank you so much again for spending some time with us today.
Hey, thanks, guys. It's been real fun. Absolutely.
And we're going to put you back in the green room real quick as soon as I get my tab straight here. If you would just hang tight for like 30 seconds, Matt, and we're going to close out the show, and we'll revisit with you.
Hey, guys.
Good stuff, man.
Yeah. I could talk for hours on that.
It's embrace it.
Yeah. It's going to touch everything. I was going to say when we were talking about robotics, like they're 3D printing houses here in Austin area.
Yeah.
Like just, they bring in this giant robot and just the walls, they just 3D print the whole thing. It's crazy.
Is there any sources you can send me on that? Because I would love to, that'd be a great topic of discussion on one of my other podcasts.
Yeah. They built the whole neighborhood. Now they're starting a second one.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That's great.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's very like, I mean, it's kind of a weird looking wall because it, you know, it looks like icing, you know, it's got the ridges and stuff. It looks kind of like 50s or 60s ish. So anyway, but yeah, I mean, that's all the framing, all that stuff, you know, you just load the blueprint in the computer and it just, like 2 days.
That's a
built.
Big topic of discussion in our industry in 3D printing for composites, but they're just, you know, I think it's UMass, University of Massachusetts. They're, you know, they have a institute, Composites Institute, and they're doing homes, you know, 3D printed homes.
Yep.
And I mean, it's pretty, I mean, they're not like McMansions or anything, but they're like livable housing.
Yeah, they're nice.
Yeah, it's not bad. So, all right.
Wrap it up.
Good episode. For all of our listeners, check us out, persuasionbythepint.com. This is episode 385. And again, that is Matt Rouse. We'll have the all of his information on our show page at 385. Check out his book, Will AI Take My Job? And it will. So we just answered the question on today's show. But you can learn more about what you can do about it. So check it out. And with that said, thanks for listening. We'll see you guys next week. Sean, do we have a guest?
No.
For next week? Okay.
Not yet.
Not yet. So we may do a little flight, or we may bring someone in. We had some discussion on cold reading. That may be a topic of discussion. We actually may play around with AI on cold reading. That might be fun on a flight. So who knows? But we'll see you guys next week.
See ya.